The world's longest undefended border, stretching over 5,500 miles, is now a flashpoint in North American politics, threatening to upend decades of peace, prosperity, and the deep trust that has defined the relationship between Canada and the United States. Once a symbol of seamless cooperation and open exchange, the border has become the center of a political and economic standoff, with Alaska's only land link to the rest of the U.S. now at risk. The highways of British Columbia, vital arteries for American goods and Alaskan supplies, are now bargaining chips in a high-stakes dispute that threatens livelihoods on both sides. The idea of Canada restricting U.S. access to Alaska was once unthinkable, an almost unimaginable scenario. But today, it's a stark reality, with border gates closing and communities left in limbo. This crisis exposes a vulnerability that few Americans ever considered: Alaska's dependence on Canadian goodwill for its primary supply route, a lifeline that can be threatened by international tensions. Outrage is growing as Americans realize that a foreign power can, with the stroke of a pen, control access to one of their own states. For many, it's a wake-up call about the fragility of cross-border ties. What started as a trade dispute over tariffs and regulations has quickly escalated into a heated debate about sovereignty, national security, and the future of North American cooperation. The U.S. Canada relationship, once a model of stability, is being redefined in real time, with new tolls, tariffs, and restrictions threatening to become the new normal for travelers and businesses alike. The world is watching closely as these two longtime allies navigate a crisis that could set a global precedent for how nations manage shared borders and resources in times of conflict. The path back to stability is uncertain, and the stakes, economic, political, and personal, have never been higher for both countries and the people who call this borderland home. This crisis didn't appear overnight. It's the culmination of years of simmering tensions, trade disagreements, and political posturing that have been quietly building beneath the surface. What seemed like minor disputes at first slowly grew into something much larger as both sides became less willing to compromise. The result? A dramatic escalation that caught many by surprise, but in hindsight, the warning signs were always there. The spark that set everything off came when President Trump announced a sweeping 25% tariff on all Canadian goods entering the United States. This wasn't just a policy shift. It was a bold move that sent shockwaves through both economies and rattled long-standing alliances. British Columbia's Premier, David Eby, wasted no time in responding. He introduced tough new legislation to impose heavy tolls on U.S. trucks traveling through the province to reach Alaska, a vital route for American commerce. President Trump's reaction was immediate and forceful. He framed Canada's move as a direct attack on U.S. sovereignty and Alaska's economic lifeline, vowing to defend American interests at any cost. The rhetoric quickly intensified. What began as a trade dispute soon morphed into a full-blown national crisis, with Trump publicly targeting Prime Minister Trudeau and accusing Canada of undermining the United States. Trudeau's government refused to back down. In a show of unity, they retaliated with tariffs of their own, signaling that Canada would not be bullied or intimidated. Other provinces quickly joined the fray. Ontario, for example, imposed surcharges on electricity exports to the U.S., threatening to disrupt power supplies to American cities and industries. Even Yukon, usually far from the center of national disputes, took a stand by halting liquor purchases from American companies, sending a symbolic but pointed message. The measures didn't stop there. Canadian officials began restricting U.S. access to lucrative government contracts, further straining cross-border business relationships. What started as a single tariff threat quickly spiraled into a multi-front economic war, with new barriers and restrictions appearing almost daily. Each retaliatory move deepened the divide, making it harder for either side to step back without losing face. Diplomats on both sides found themselves at an impasse, unable to find common ground. The border, once a symbol of unity and cooperation, has now become a battleground marked by suspicion and barriers. Retaliation is now the norm, with both sides digging in and showing no signs of backing down. The political climate has grown colder, and trust is in short supply. The crisis has snowballed, growing larger and more complicated with every passing day. For now, there's no easy off-ramp in sight. The era of quiet cooperation between the U.S. and Canada is over, at least for now. The world is watching, and the next moves will shape the future of this once close partnership. For Alaska, this isn't just politics, it's survival. While most cargo arrives by sea, the Alaska Highway is crucial for time-sensitive goods and vital equipment. Tolls or delays would spike prices and disrupt supply chains, hitting Alaskans hard. The oil and gas industry, dependent on reliable trucking, faces costly delays and project disruptions. Tourism is also at risk. U.S. lawmakers threaten to let cruise ships bypass Canadian ports, devastating British Columbia's industry and creating ripple effects. The interconnected economies mean any blow to one side hurts the other. The Alaska Trucking Association warns of a looming economic downturn. Supply chain chaos and tourism losses could hit consumers hardest. The stakes are immediate and personal for thousands of families and businesses. Leadership styles on both sides are fueling the crisis. President Trump frames the dispute as a test of American strength, refusing to back down and rallying his base. Canadian leaders led by Premier Eby and Prime Minister Trudeau present their actions as reluctant but necessary defense. Alaska's governor calls for calm, fearing his state will bear the brunt of the fallout. U.S. border state lawmakers are torn between national pride and protecting local economies. Canadian provinces have united, showing a rare coast-to-coast front against U.S. pressure. This unity strengthens Canada's negotiating hand and complicates U.S. strategy. The decentralized power of Canadian provinces adds a new layer to the standoff. Canada insists this isn't just about trade. Environmental concerns over heavy truck traffic, Indigenous rights, and infrastructure costs are all part of the rationale for tolls. Many highways cross unceded First Nations territories, and Canada is legally obligated to consult these communities. British Columbia argues that U.S. trucks should help pay for road upkeep. These justifications give Canada a robust, multifaceted position. The dispute is now about sovereignty, responsibility, and the future of cross-border relations. The legal roots of this crisis stretch all the way back to the turbulent days of World War II, when global conflict forced nations to make urgent decisions that would echo for decades. In 1942, the Alaska Highway was rapidly constructed through remote wilderness, primarily for military reasons, to ensure a secure land route to Alaska in case of Japanese invasion. After the war ended, the Canadian portion of the highway was integrated into Canada's national highway system, becoming a vital artery for both commerce and travel. Yet despite its importance, no formal treaty was ever signed to guarantee the United States permanent, toll-free access across Canadian territory. This means Canada has always retained full sovereignty over its roads, including the right to regulate, maintain, and even restrict access if it chooses. British Columbia's proposal to introduce tolls is not only legal under Canadian law, but also entirely feasible from a technical standpoint. The province could use existing infrastructure like weigh stations and surveillance cameras to efficiently collect tolls from vehicles traveling the route. Legally, the United States cannot claim a treaty violation, since no binding agreement on toll-free passage exists between the two countries. What's truly at stake is not law, but the spirit of partnership, an erosion of trust and cooperation that has defined the border for generations. Appeals to shared history and economic logic are now the main tools left for negotiators as both sides weigh the costs and benefits. The unity and alliance forged in 1942 have faded, replaced by pragmatic, sometimes hard-nosed policy decisions on both sides of the border. Legally, the right to impose tolls is clear and unambiguous. Canada can act as it sees fit. But the wisdom of actually doing so, given the diplomatic, economic, and social consequences, remains the central question for leaders on both sides. The decisions made now will shape not just the future of the Alaska Highway, but the broader landscape of North American cooperation for years to come. The standoff continues, with both sides entrenched. If British Columbia enacts tolls, U.S. retaliation could trigger a full-blown trade war, hurting both economies. High-level diplomacy is the only real hope for de-escalation. A negotiated deal would require both sides to back down without losing face. Even if resolved, trust has been damaged. Future disputes may escalate faster. The U.S. may seek new routes to Alaska, while Canada has shown it's willing to use its leverage. The precedent set here could reshape North American relations for years. The world is watching. Will reason prevail or will brinkmanship win? The open road between friends is now a choke point. Restoring faith will take more than policy. It will take real leadership.